So, dear friends and guests, Startup Village 2021 comes to an end. We have one last session to go, but we have all the best things towards the end. So, leading developers design smart residential complexes using multiple digital solutions. They change not only lifestyle and urban environment, but creates new quality of life in houses and in blocks. With digital solutions and services, smart residential complexes provide additional comfort and safety. The management company are able to control all the processes. They have smaller costs and they have competitive advantages. So we move to our concluding session, smart development, developing technologies in construction. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Well, I'm happy to welcome all the guests of today's audience and speakers. So the person who announced it's a closing session of Startup Village, but in fact, the large story we'll be discussing is only starting, because today we are commencing an accelerator program for tech projects in development and construction. We're doing that for the third time. Startup Village is place for ninth time, and its history is closely linked to build-up, and where we involve major construction companies. Some of them are here. I would like to introduce our speakers. So via Zoom, we will have a guy, Eames, who's in the area of environmental construction. We also have a person from HALS, Nikolai Ryashin, Gaskar Technologies, Pavel Kucheruk, Deputy CEO, Alphaopen. Also via video link, we'll have Alexander Rychov from Osnova Group. So you can ask your questions. They will come to this device, this high-tech device. I'll be asking those questions. And today we'll be discussing those technologies that change and improve and perfect construction and development. Not only theoretically, as often happens at these sessions, but in practical terms, because today we launch build-up, and those solutions that we'll be discussing, they will be applied on specific sites of partner companies. I wanted to put the presentation on the screen and remind you in what context our discussion will take place. We have 5 partner companies this year. Among them, the largest developers For the first time, not only developers participate, but there's an adjacent company, an IT company. Gaskar, for the first time, participates as a partner, and I think that opens additional major opportunities for IT technologies. When we talk about new technologies, it's not just IT. And for startups, thanks to this project, we offer to them an intensive program of training and adapting and testing your solutions in partnerships with major developers on real sites. So the key idea is to prove economic efficiency, economic impact. So it's not innovations for the sake of innovations, but so far we measure that in monetary terms. So we'll be testing your solutions to see if they're economically feasible, and we'll do that with our partners. The program starts today, so we will be accepting applications until June the 30th, and based on the results of a multi-stage expert review, we'll move on to testing and piloting stage of the best 30 solutions, which will be selected by independent experts and our industry partners. Most importantly, those proposals that will be submitted by startups, they should be clear about economic impacts, about new things, and the usefulness for developers or users, if those solutions are for users. So at this, I would like to tell you that you can scan this QR code. If you're not able to do that, then you can find a build-up. You can go to the build-up website where all the detailed information is provided. And we will have a webinar as well on preparing those applications, how they should be submitted. And we will invite developers also to participate, so we'll be able to share more about those aspects that I will not be able to cover today here. So let's move to the main section and discuss technologies which are in greatest demand today, why, and what mechanisms will help to implement them. So let's start with Guy Eames, who is a recognized expert at the world level in innovative construction technologies. So he heads the Russian Department for Environmental Construction, which is the largest association in green construction. So Guy, tell us briefly about the key trends and promising areas in the building industry around the world, the way you see it. Perhaps there are some things that we missed out on, but we should pay some attention to, as well as our partners when they look for new technologies. So please share your perspective.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's really a wonderful event. I would like to also say how proud I am to be an expert and a partner of the build-up competition, which you just mentioned, and also the Green Tech Accelerator, which are two wonderful programs from Skolkovo. So briefly, in 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about new green tech and smart technologies, how they can change the construction industry and how they are changing the construction industry. So traditionally, when we talk about smart technology, the various elements of smart cities, which you can see here on the screen, all the various Internet of Things, has a direct influence on air quality, on energy use, on many other resource issues related to sustainability, both in the ecological and the social side of sustainability. And of course, we've seen as we come out of the pandemic and through the pandemic, how technology can have a huge influence on being able to work at home and on transport, which of course has a knock-on effect on the ecology and on our air quality. So the idea of smart cities and ecology have always been very closely related. So if we go into a little bit more detail, first of all, health aspects. One very important area which is coming out of the pandemic is health and how everybody wants to live in a healthy environment, both outdoors and indoors. So here, for example, is a technology on the screen which can absorb much of the fumes from cars, so the NOx emissions and other particulate matter which comes out of car emissions. We're talking here about light activated titanium dioxide mixed in with either asphalt or with concrete. So this technology can be used on building surfaces, on facades, and also on roads. There have been trials in the European Union, and it's also recommended by the Global Cement and Concrete Association. This type of technology, I don't believe has been tested yet in Russia, but it can remove up to 80% of these terrible particles which come out of our cars when we're driving. And the way that it works is the particles land on the surface. They are then activated through sunlight, which acts as a catalytic function. And then they're washed away by the rain. And they are then actually a positive influence on the environment. That's just one example of a healthy technology, which we'll be seeing, I'm sure, coming in over the next few years. Other technologies here, if we move on to building performance. Building performance is one of these funny areas that I mean, it's funny, it really is funny, because so much energy and so many resources are literally wasted in buildings. I'm sure that that people sitting in the room are aware quite often in buildings how at the same time you have the air conditioning system working at the same time as the heating system is working, yeah? And the two are fighting each other, automatically adding more and more power to try and heat up and cool the building at the same time. And many other technologies or energy, much energy is used in buildings completely unnecessarily, where nothing positive is coming out of it. So if we look at the various technologies which will come out, which are already coming out, and we've seen some of these also in Russia, the first focus area is indoor air quality. With the use of many smart instruments, these sensors for CO2, for NOx levels, we can fix basically the problems of the indoor air quality by adding in more airflow or changing filters where necessary, and being aware of the problems. Same thing is with the resources such as water. If that's suddenly used disproportionately, they can be shut off. And comparison between buildings is very cool. When you are monitoring all of the use of the energy and other resources in buildings, and you compare with one building to another, which is happening, say, in Australia, for example, with Neighbours, which is a wonderful program, which compares building with building. They've managed to, just through monitoring and just through understanding how much energy they're using, they've managed to reduce their energy use by up to 70%, which is really remarkable. If we move on then to other technologies like microgrids, so today we're used in Russia to using almost national grids with power and energy use in each building, and heat in energy grids. Micro grids are coming in quickly. We see this in Scandinavia, we see it in the UK, in other countries. And I'm sure that in Russia, the huge grids which are used at the moment will also be gradually brought down to a local level. So in this case, microgrids can use integrated facade systems, which we see here. They can use storage in the ground or in water sources. We have wonderful new battery storage systems, and even energy can be used or stored, which is excess, for example, from data centers, can be used for city farming, for actually producing food within the building. So these energy balance issues are being studied, I know, in Russia, because I'm working with several developers, and we will see those come about very soon. Then finally, of my examples, this smart modular approach. So constructing buildings out of modules. The modules can be either timber framed, so wood framed, or lightweight metal, or in some cases in Russia, concrete. We've seen many examples of that. We've seen Knolf with their new factory. We've seen Renaissance and other companies coming in with this. But the smarter elements are really only starting to open up now. So, for example, here we see how within walls many smart systems can be incorporated. That's an Israeli startup. We see at the bottom on the picture there, Mighty Buildings, which is actually a Moscow-based company. It's based between Moscow and Oakland in California. How they're 3D printing these amazing modules, really the buildings of the future, I would say. Not out of concrete, but out of a composite, a very interesting composite material. And of course, this also offers us the opportunity to build these tiny homes and glamping units, as we can see on the bottom left. Finally, just to finish my presentation, I would like to mention a new trend, which is global and finally has come to Russia. That is the CLT, which is cross-laminated timber. We can see the Segeja group in Sokol just opened a 50,000 cubic meter factory, one of the Europe's largest factories, which can provide industrial timber. This is definitely the future. We can see also the Russian government has been pushing towards this. It's been lobbying this. It's a very sustainable material, and it's very easy to grow this material across Russia. So those are a few insights. I could talk for hours on this topic. Thanks very much for inviting me, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the presentations from the other speakers and answering questions.
Thank you
very much, Guy. Indeed, it's very great to speak to you, and it's every time very pleasant. So you have spoken about very interesting fields of work, and I hope that we will hear from the Russian developers and see how the priorities are correlating with what you have been talking about. And I urge the audience to write any questions, and I will ask those after the speeches. I would like to give floor to Rodion Shumilov, HALS company. GALS is one of the first partners that we have started working and basically built up, arose to the stage thanks to GALS as well. But it's also a great responsibility for us, because every year we have to come up with different things, with some new things, and to prove them on and on. The demands to innovations are growing from your side, and your company is not standing still as well. And I would like to ask you to tell us what actually innovations bring you, in particular through build-up. So what technological priorities you found for yourselves? What is the focus of GALS from the point of view of implementing the innovations in your business? Where do you see the point of growth? Thank you very much, Mikhail. Yes, we are participating in this program for the third time already, and it's great to see that this project has become success. It's a successful program, it's a successful platform where developers and corporations are testing and implementing their products, some technological processes and solutions and so on. This is a platform which supports the companies which provide these solutions, and they are offering them to developers. And we can see dialogue, which is supported by such foundations are Skolkovo. The fact that the program is taking place for the third time means that it's an efficient program and it's a successful one as a platform. However, construction as an industry seems to be a conservative field. However, build-up programs are instilling the confidence into us, and it makes us believe that everything is going to be fine in the field of construction. If we're talking about GALS, we are planning to look for the projects through build-up in particular, and we have very interesting projects which require innovations, and we are looking for those, and we are working in the field of digital construction and, of course, the usage of the facilities that are already existing. If we are talking about the paper developing, so I mean design and so on, we are looking for solutions in the field of BIM. Last year, thanks to build-up, we managed to increase and improve our corporate skills. We promoted BIM in our company, and we want to go on doing that here and now as well. Our company is being updated here and now, and we are looking for new projects, developer projects, I mean. And this year, we have set up an investment vector for us. We are looking for solutions in the field of area and of the grounds, and we are looking for construction grounds. We are evaluating the economic values. We are looking for some solutions which allow for making the dialogue with the cities to be more productive and efficient, because the city is an active participant of the development process. Build-up is a great thing because it helps us to focus on the fields which are relevant here and now due to various reasons. And I would like to say a couple of words about one more thing. We have been participating in this program for 3 times already, and I would like to say that this project is very important, and it's very hard to evaluate and to touch the changes which are given by build-up. I'm not talking about solutions which are integrated into the production cycle. I'm talking about the corporate culture and how it changes, because the participation of the company in such programs urges the employees to go deeper into the world of innovations and the world of venture, into the world of testing of various solutions and iterations based on mistakes and the success of this testing. This position of constant development and search for perfection is great asset as a part of corporate culture, as a part of DNA of the company, and it's required by the business indeed, especially in the times of turbulence when we need to be flexible and mobile as business. Well, Mikhail, I hope I managed to answer your question. Yes, you managed. Thank you. Okay, Guy told us about a very interesting thing, as I see it. But we don't see it too often. So we're talking about the focus on the eco-friendliness of the apartments, caring for the nature and so on. Well, of course, quality of air is one thing, so we have projects which are devoted to this, and many people are working in this regard. And what do you think, this trend, this eco-friendly trend, is it relevant for Russian markets of the real estate? Is it demanded? Should we work in this direction, or is it something exotic for us? Well, I believe that ecology and eco-friendliness as a trend is pretty much relevant to us. This field is going to develop inevitably, and this is a global agenda, and it's becoming more and more important for the humankind in general, due to the fact that the generations which are appearing and being born, they already know this agenda themselves, and they are a part of it, and they are much more conscious about that compared to the older generations. On the other hand, when we're talking about landing these technologies to our ground, we see the local peculiarities. And first of all, I'm talking about the restrictions and limitations of paying capacity. There are things which customer is ready to pay for, and some things which they are not ready to pay for. The Western buyer has a bigger wallet, and that is why the Western customer is ready to pay for ecological solutions which are not available to us. But the trend is going to develop, no doubt about it. Let's hope that economic situation is going to rush in to follow the eco situation and the eco demand. Yeah, by the way, there was this award in the market of the commercial real estate. So it was the brick. I think it was 15 years of this nomination, and there was the special nomination called the Green Brick for eco-friendliness and support. Well, I hope that our partners are going to strive to receive it. I don't know who actually received it, but among our partners, I can say that we have been looking at this field in the field of industry more compared to construction. But we also understand that construction also demands this from the point of view of using the recycled materials and from using the energy in a more economic way. But anyhow, we can combine economy and ecology, and we really hope that within this build-up it's going to be possible. I would like to give floor to Nikolai Ryashin, VP of Gaskar Technologies. So we started with the oldies, so to say, and right now we give floor to the people who are participating for the first time this year. We understand that you are a part of a big holding, and you are not just an IT company which grew up from a development and from construction field, and you understand IT better than anybody else, and especially the tendencies and the trends in this field. Also, you have your own experience, which has been accumulated during the years of your work, and you can test these technologies using your experience. That is why SMART, in the name of this session, is quite relevant to you. You are developing some things yourselves, and some things you take from the market. What technologies do you consider to be most relevant, and which are holding the best future for all of you, and what is actually what are you aiming at in the development of the technologies? Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us here. Gaskar group of companies is not IT only. This is construction as well. We are building the social and infrastructural facilities and the apartments, living apartments. But being an IT integrator and developer of our own solution, we know what this route is from the development of a solution to its implementation and piloting. If we're talking about our company, we have various types of devices and software, and to say that the construction workers started using drones and they have been doing this for quite some time, and they're using laser equipment and they are using the analytical equipment, then I should say we moved ahead and we automated many processes here in Skolkovo. And we are trying to build up these solutions to become very high-end solutions, and to try to pilot them and to push them into the market. We have the technologies of managing the and supervising the employees using the Face ID. We are developers, we are integrators, and it's very interesting for us to see new solutions in the market. And I think that using this software and this program will be able to meet many interesting companies. Of course, we are really curious about finding out about all the cycles and all the stages of the construction, monitoring, and of course using these facilities. And I think, well, of course, using is the most important thing. Well, I would like to represent the official startups here. Yes, you have various focuses of development, and all of you have various focuses of development. And many startups actually can treat you as a potential investor. And some venture focus in the format of working with the startups could be possible with you. Am I right or not? Or do you prefer something else? What format would be comfortable for you as an integrator? How can you work with startups? Well, it all depends on each separate case and on each separate company. I think every possible option is viable. And we're talking about the pilot project and implementation and usage of our technologies on your own facilities, in your construction. And if something is interesting to us, then of course we can plunge into it right away, maybe something venture or whatever. Did you have some experience like that, and would you be interested in working with various startups? Do you want to work with Russian startups only? Because we are trying to be international as possible, and we hope that international and foreign startups are going to come to us as well. Did you have any experience of working with those? And what segments do you consider to be most interesting to you and to Russia in general? What would make Russian market more interesting for international startups?
Hardware, software solutions might be of interest, because we're not just looking only at the Russian market. We're open to companies from outside. And in our group of companies, we have companies that launch products elsewhere, outside of Russia. So this exchange can be implemented. Why not? So if it's related to digitalization and software, hardware solutions, yes, of course. And in my experience, which is somewhat limited, but still, tech companies and new startups in Russia in digitalization of construction is fairly high. I liked being on this side because one of our companies is participating in 2 tracks of a different accelerator. And I know how that startup worked, I know their trajectory from the inside. I know that there are many companies that develop wonderful products, so there's no real shortage in the market. And our colleagues from Russia can really surprise us, and their number is surprising. I will ask you to share about your group as an IT integrator, but in terms of construction activities, your group of companies, it's a real residential buildings or commercial facilities, so that the audience would get a sense in which areas you have some prospects. Infrastructural sites, it can be sporting facilities, medical facilities, and also residential buildings following Moscow City renovation program. So until this year, we focused exclusively on residential buildings, and all the projects were considered through that prism. They should be applied to residential buildings. And this year we have an opportunity to broaden this and consider projects that can be used in a large-scale infrastructural projects, commercial real estate, which economically are different, and decision-making is different. So for that reason, some of the solutions that we previously couldn't find application in residential buildings, this year with Gaskar and Monotech as being partners, we'll be able to find application for them. And hopefully They have become more successful over these years. You touched upon this topic of startups in Russia, Russian startups or other startups. Which ones are better? I would like to give the floor to a representative who used to be involved with startups. He used to be Alphaopen. Pavel Kucheruk, CEO and co-founder of the company. The company is not only a Skolkovo resident, but last year it attracted funds as investments from our key curator, Web, via Web Ventures. You piloted your solutions as part of Build Up Accelerator. So tell us about that as an example, how your company was growing, how you used the opportunities that we created together with you, and what you think when you compare Russian and non-Russian startups. Perhaps you have some experience when you compared yourself to others in a global context, which might be an additional question. But I would like to hear, so do you think Russian startups, do you think they're competitive in the global arena or not? And what about international startups? Would they be competitive here in the Russian construction market? Oh, there you have so many questions for me. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to see you here. Many thanks for the invitation. So, we are Skolkovo residents, so we're thankful to Skolkovo for helping any startups and for providing this platform for sharing experiences and opinions, which is great. And secondly, since we are a developer of software, we're called Alphalogic. So about 5 years ago, we joined this market of development. We came from other industries to try our luck there. And the first project which we ran, we did it with Capital Group. That was 4 or 5 years ago. We decided to do it because together with them, we approached this project comprehensively, doing digitalization. So that was the first interesting case for us. We wanted to test our forces, and we also wanted to learn more about what developers' market may be needed. Over these years, we've seen the active development of that. Each developer is in its own stage of development. But we see some trends of digitalization of residential construction. Another unique feature of Skolkovo is they have this build-up platform, which is a specialized one. We participate in each block, and we win oftentimes. Last year, we were recognized as well, and we also received a contract from one of the developers to develop a comprehensive approach to digitalization of residential complexes. Out of interesting things that I wanted to share with the audience, because we experts, we should say something interesting. It is expected. So this approach really worked, this comprehensive approach, and I think it still makes sense. It's quite complex, and both management companies and developers need to come to this understanding, because full-scale digitalization of residential complexes is not only about digital construction operations, it's not only about developers and construction companies when they design their sites, but the second part, what will happen to that, to those buildings? Who'll be operating them? So when you create a digital tool, who'll be using it? Or will they be able? Will the management company able to handle it? Is it a digital management company? And how it is all linked, not only technologically and even not so much technologically, but primarily in line with the business model, because client's path for the developer is one thing, and developers want to digitize it because technologies are secondary to their business model. And management company has a different client experience. So they enter the building and they go all the way to their apartments and safe environment in the building, etc. And digital tools which are used by management companies. So what things that we do and what makes us different? It's a comprehensive approach when we work both for developers and tie their objectives, starting from the design phase, and what is needed by management companies when they operate those buildings, and they need to have their own toolbox of solutions to deal with their issues, and how also to take engineering systems infrastructure into consideration. So you can take a look at the most advanced site, Prime Park of Optima Development, which was developed with a lot of deliberation. At the design stage, they selected a management company that, in cooperation with the developer, they designed IT infrastructure, and they knew the final result. And management company was planning their operations even at that stage. And they were thinking about future residents, among other things. So developers should study those best practices, and we can share them as consultants free of charge. And a second message, since we are an integration platform, we also ask the Skolkovo residents who develop their own solutions and who would like to contribute to our system, don't be shy. Get in touch with us. And to enrich this comprehensive system, both for developers and management companies. Thank you. So how does a startup see itself when you compare yourself to international startups? Did you ever do it for yourself? How do our startups compare? Are they better, or is there a basis for that comparison? So if we look at this market, and there are different solutions: digitalization of construction activities, control, beam technologies, and in terms of operations, beam FM, there's such a solution. So we do study Western experience, among other things, to better understand what Western market needs, and we do it with the help of our shareholders. We are Beta Capital from Rosatom and Web Ventures. They joined us as shareholders, and they have large-scale vision how we could and should deal with these issues when we work abroad. And so their evangelistic approaches are used here, but in some segments we are leaders, it's true. I should agree with you. In recent times, I analyzed some of the ecosystems in ProdTech, perhaps in the United States because of the scope and the number of startups. But when it's like that, but we are at the level of Europe and Israel, and Russian startups even stronger, I think. Unfortunately, my smart device did not receive any messages, but I'm sure we have some offline questions here from our audience. So, let's pass the mic to the people in the audience. Hello, my name is Konstantin. I'm CEO of Style. We are the only startup from Skolkovo who made it to the finals of Breakthrough of the Year. So tomorrow we'll be awarded in the Kremlin. So here's my question. We develop materials for facades, for interiors, with 3D images on them, which is innovative technology. It is fully based on optics, so when visual angle changes even slowly, so pictures change, there are some dynamics to it. So nobody has it in the world. We have patents in 64 countries, but we represent Moscow architectural and building industry in other countries of the world. So we have some idea about that. And there is some international interest towards that. So the question is, so here we talk about smart development. So we don't talk so much about digital solutions. We talk a lot about design, about beauty. But those panels, they're much cheaper, much cheaper than regular ceramic printing. And well, of course, we have dynamic images, and they're environmentally friendly. So would that be interesting as part of that build-up, this project of ours? Is it of any interest? And and the question is addressed to whom? To all of the panel discussion. Okay, let me respond on behalf of the developers and construction companies. Of course, we look for innovations and solutions. They don't have to be digital. This year and last year, we were reviewing. We have a whole section on this. Innovative products, materials to be used in construction, and also for finishing works. For one, I understand, so that fits that context, the idea of build-up. But you should also take a look at those areas which were announced by participants. Do they have any innovative materials? Oh, they're there. Of course they're there. Okay, then you're welcome, and congratulations on your victory and upcoming award in the Kremlin. So when you submit your application, you should keep in mind that economically it should make sense. Maybe not right off the bat, but after a testing period it can be improved, but it should be understood by the developer. I think this is a concluding session, so we can go a little bit over time. And one more question? I can add to that. If your solution is basically a panel for advertisement for displaying information? Okay. I thought it was an advertisement panel. No. So if we can manage or control those panels for in terms of reflecting light and thermal regulation, so it can be used as part of our systems. But of course you should include that from scratch when you do design, how it's connected, how it's controlled. But it's a message for the rest of us, for the suppliers of those solutions. I think that we can discuss in greater detail, so we will discuss it with our colleagues. And good afternoon. Vera Vim project I would like to thank Skolkovo for a build-up We won in 2019 with GALS. We piloted successfully with them, and thanks to that victory, our platform started to grow. And here's my question. I have two questions, in fact. Because of this specific situation with the mortgages and large sales of apartments last year, especially GALS, you outperformed. You more than doubled. I also made some money by buying and selling an apartment. So okay, let's get more serious. So because apartments were so actively sold last year, what kind of solution are you looking for? Do developers think about how to help clients to take care of their apartments and also furnish their apartments, and also international markets? Russian projects, can they be applied to other markets? Which markets are more accessible? Which markets are similar to Russian markets? Or Russia has a very unique market, and if you want to work internationally, your solution should be greatly adapted because they have different mechanisms of decision making. This is for Rodion and Nikolai, right? Yeah. Okay. About integration, it's a different topic because Homeline was another project that we developed. Thank you for your questions. So where do I start? With which one? So about the market in the country and what developers are concerned about. I think the demand and the sales that happened last year, which were larger than expected, I think it still goes on, it continues.
The situation is growing, and the mortgage is one of the drivers of this growth. But the thing is whether it's going to be subsidized as it is now, or is something going to change. The rate has been raised, and everything else will be raised as well. I wouldn't be trying to build up this straight correlation between the sales and the payments and where the developer looks to. So because the cycle always becomes with the land. We look at what we are building, then we are creating the model as an idea on the paper, and then we are building things. So this remains as it has been. And this immersion into the post-construction period, I'm talking about the usage and the innovations of the solutions which exist there. We can also treat the in-house systems which are still developed this way or another. Maybe not as fast as the market of the real estate grows, but as a product and the technology, it does develop. And of course, the furnishing remains a very important part of the product. Some of them are with the processing and some of them are not. And when we're talking about the increase of efficiency, so they are increasing it. And these processes are going one after another, and they will go on doing that. Thank you very much. You've answered my first question. Yes, this turnkey basis furnishing is very important. That is why the tools which are going to be useful for the buyer and for the seller seems to be, and the developer, I mean, seem to be relevant to you. Me, as a developer of a solution, not an integrator, not a customer, not a construction worker, I would like to say that most likely it's the IT platforms which need to be worked through, the ones which are built on working with the government, or the ones which are regulated by the government, because it all depends on the legislation of each country. Of course, some software and some solutions can be built upon the various things which are used all over the world, let's say AutoCAD and so on. So how can your product be built around it? So if you do that, then you will be able to access every single market. I'm actually thinking more about monitoring here and now, and it's easy to enter the market. There are various examples of Russian companies which have been developing in Russia and they have found more vectors of development. They actually rebuilt the market of the European states, and it was their focus of their work. Everything in regard to monitoring to people and regular technologies which are built anew and neural networks. This is a very important thing, and rather inexpensive, rather cheap. So new models are being done in our country and they're going outside of the market. And to answer your question, I think that everything in regard to the work with the government makes it a bit more complicated. If it's IT without any hardware, it's simpler and it's faster, and there is a potential for startups. Thank you. You fully answered my question. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I have to apologize in front of the audience because we have the express format. We have combined offline and online format. From the point of view of questions, dear colleagues, buildupsk.ru is starting to work today. You can send your questions there. And in about 2 weeks, we will have an online webinar where we and our partners, unfortunately, technically today we are short on time, but we have very big partners who were able to join us in the discussion, although they plan to do that, and I really hope that they're going to join the webinar. And over there we will have more optimized timelines. Please send your questions. We will get ready and we will have additional clarifications on various matters. Build Up 2020 is a go. Thank you very much for this session. Thank you very much, Startup Village.
Дорогие друзья, уважаемые гости, Startup Village 2021 подходит к концу. Все закончилось, наши лекции закончились. Мне было очень приятно провести...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Startup Village 2021 is coming to an end. It was a pleasure to be with you. I hope you received all the information which you wanted, all the investors. I wish you to find the great projects, find your investors, happiness, love and friendship and health to all of you. See you next time.